Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. I hope that you all have had an amazing week so far. In today's video, I wanted to chat about an interesting topic regarding the witch trials, but not the ones from Salem, Massachusetts. This specific trial occurred right in my home state of New Hampshire. Hampton, New Hampshire to be exact. There was a lot of information on this subject, so I'm going to do my best to condense it all for you guys in this video. Also, just as a note, I have cited the websites that I used for research regarding this topic in the description box below. So if you're interested in wanting to find out more information about this fascinating topic, make sure you check out the websites below. I'm also thinking about making this video a two-parter because there was another woman on trial in 1656 while this one was happening. So there's a lot of tea, y'all. There's a lot of witch trial tea in New Hampshire, and I did not think that was a thing, but it is. The other woman's name was Jane Walford, so if you are interested in hearing her story and what happened during her trials, definitely let me know in the comments below. Let's jump right in, shall we? Eunice Goody Cole was convicted of witchcraft in 1656. She unfortunately spent most of her life in a Boston prison, but we'll get more in detail about what occurred with that. Just to start, I couldn't find a lot of information on her childhood or where she was born, but if you are watching this video and you have that information, I would be so happy to learn more about Eunice's history growing up. So I will leave my email in the description box below as well if you have any more information regarding this topic. So Eunice Goody Cole was also known as Eunice Giles before she was married. I found the name Giles really interesting, even though it's in Eunice's last name, because Giles Corey was a victim of the Salem witch trials that occurred in 1692. He was the one that was pressed to death. So, I don't know, synchronicity, name synchronicity, maybe. In 1635, Eunice was married to a man named William Cools. They were married at an Anglican church in Middlesex, England, more specifically the area of Stepney, which is just outside of London. It was later theorized that this was the same Eunice and William that later arrived in New England during the summer-fall of 1636. They lived on Mount Wollaston, which is just south of Boston, around 1637 until early 1638. They then moved and became one of the first settlers of Exeter, New Hampshire. In the year 1640, shortly after Eunice and William moved to Exeter, the town of Hampton, New Hampshire granted land to William. William and Eunice did live in Exeter until around 1644, according to the town records. Once Eunice arrived in town, however, that's where the trouble began. There were reports that Eunice was a very grumpy and argumentative person. She frequently got into fights about property boundaries and livestock. In 1645, Eunice was then charged with slander. 2 years after that, she and her husband were charged with stealing pigs. And during that dispute, it was claimed that Eunice bit the constable during the trial. Oh, that was a little whack, not gonna lie, that was a little whack. You shouldn't bite people. Then, during the 1650s, things got crazier. People were not only accusing Eunice of stealing and being a disagreeable person, but they were now blaming her for other people's deaths. One of the occurrences that Eunice was being blamed for was the drowning of 2 young men. They drowned in Hampton River, but it was believed that Eunice performed magic workings that made the boat overturn. Eventually, she was accused of witchcraft and had to stand trial in the County Court of Norfolk in 1656. 26 witnesses testified at her first trial for witchcraft in Boston. It was mentioned earlier before the trial that when she had been whipped, they found a witch's mark. Apparently, she was being whipped due to her possible involvement with the death of a, quote, deformed child. That's what it said in the document, so I'm not too sure what that was about. There was no other context that I could find. Some testimonies also said that she was involved with the death of a bedridden man and killed his cattle through demonic agency. It was also claimed during her trial that Eunice had knowledge of a private conversation and that there was no way Eunice would have had any context of that conversation because it was behind closed doors. So because of that, they are accusing her of witchcraft. She was then convicted on a lesser charge and was kept in Boston prison until around 1660. But it doesn't end there. Oh boo, it does not end there, folks. It gets even crazier, okay? Shortly after she came home, she was literally then arrested for another charge of witchcraft, where she again was whipped and then thrown back into prison. I don't know. It's just crazy. At that point, in 1662, William, Eunice's husband, passed away, and Eunice filed a petition for her release from prison. It was granted, but not for long. Because she did not abide by the terms of release, she was then arrested and thrown into prison for the third time. Third time! Can't this woman just live? Let her live her life. You should have just let her live, okay? It was witnessed on the morning that she was thrown into jail that she was having conversation with the devil. So I don't know if someone found her in the woods or is claiming they found her in the woods talking to the devil, but that is what was stated. Eunice's home and land were at this point taken from her, and the town of Hampton had to pay a yearly fee to keep her incarcerated. Yikes! My gosh, this is just, it doesn't end here. Doesn't end here. 8 years later, in 1668, Eunice was freed from prison, but at this point, she's over 70 years old and homeless. When she returned to Hampton, the town put her in a cottage next to their meeting house in town and gave her very limited rationings of food and wood. At this point, I wish I was exaggerating, folks. I wish, but I'm not, because she was then accused again of witchcraft. I can't. Eunice, who at this point is over 70 years old, had to travel back to Boston. Why am I laughing? Why am I laughing? It's not funny. It's just really, sad. It's just really sad. She had to travel back out to Boston in 1673 to stand for another trial. Apparently, there were claims of her threatening the night watchman and also enticing a 9-year-old girl. I'm not too sure of the context of that claim regarding the little girl, so if anyone has any other information on that, make sure to let me know in the comments below, because I'm not too sure. At this point, prosecutors John Sanborn and Nathaniel Ware tried to throw Eunice under the bus by bringing up decades-old evidence of witchcraft. Long story short, the jury didn't buy it and refused to convict this poor woman of any other accusations. So, Eunice goes back to Hampton. But I'm really sad to say that it's not over. Why am I laughing? It's not funny. Eunice was again accused of witchcraft in 1680. I don't even know how many times at this point she's been accused of witchcraft, but it's too many. At this point, because of the amount of accusations Eunice had gone through, Eunice was then locked in leg irons and sent to a local prison. A month later, she died, and her legacy of her trials and tribulations became well known. It's claimed that Eunice was denied a Christian burial, and when she passed, they impaled her on a stake and left her outside of the town in order to drive the evil spirit out of her. Shortly after, she was then taken and thrown into a ditch on the side of the road. Sad. This poor woman. So sad. There is today, however, a memorial for Eunice on the town green in Hampton. She literally endured a quarter of a century of prosecution. Horrible. Horrible. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. I know it's not a very happy ending, but I wanted to give you guys a little inside peek on what the New Hampshire witch trial was about. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Make sure that you're subscribed to my channel and leave a comment in the box below in order to be entered into this month's giveaway. And as always, I will see you guys next week. Bye.